Welcome to week 10, everyone. This week we'll be discussing language and power in early childhood education. We'll have an intro to semiotics and representation, and we'll continue to prepare for your Pechakucha assignment by thinking with photography. So throughout this course, we've been paying attention to the discourses of developmental psychology and how they operate through discursive regimes whereby individuals monitor themselves in relation to the assumed norms of society. Furthermore, we've discussed some of the technologies of developmental theory, the tools that measure and govern how, what, when, and with whom a child learns. And we've discussed how developmental theory research produces the results that it seeks to know. So in this way, their methods create rather than reflect meaning and reproduce particular subjectivities and ways of being and knowing with children. So in your Pechakucha assignments, you'll be unpacking common assumptions that frame early childhood education by examining how developmental psychology is entangled with settler colonialism and neoliberalism, and how these concepts are manifested physically and symbolically. So how they operate in the actual physical world, as well as in our minds and subjectivities. So we've also had discussions about how language is not only a communicative tool, but that language creates worlds. Therefore, the languages of developmental psychology create particular worlds and ways of being. So the language that we use as educators also creates particular worlds. So this week we'll be considering the languages of photography as a method to pay attention and highlight the dimensions of your chosen topic for your Pechakucha assignment. So through photography, my hope is that in looking closely through this lens, you'll be able to slow down and notice ordinary moments of your life or work, which illuminate how your chosen topic is manifested and enacted. Yet, as we'll discuss this week, photography is not without its own colonial tensions. And if we're to engage in work which attends to our implication in Canada's ongoing settler colonial project, then I think we need to situate ourselves and our practices, including the methods that we use in our assignments, within these tension spaces and examine how we might be reproducing settler colonial rationalities within our work. So this week we'll be introduced to semiotics and issues in representation, and we'll consider how, in the midst of its colonial histories and contradictions, we might engage with photography as a language to reconfigure and represent our understandings, specifically in relation to your chosen topic. And something that I've been thinking with as I read this week is the concept that photos create realities and shape our memories of certain experiences, places, and people. And that the memories of life are so often told through photos. They often shape what stories are told and retold about our lives and are a sort of visual time capsule of our histories. So for example, I might not necessarily remember my family's Christmas party from 20 years ago, but the photos and how they were taken inform how I perceive and remember that time and place. And some photos are particularly powerful with the effects and sensations that they create. So in this way, photography is a powerful tool in the composing of worlds. Thus, it requires particular sensitivities and accountabilities as we do this work with children and in our pedagogy. So this week we'll be reading Sylvia Kind's article called Lively Entanglements, the Doings, Movements, and Enactments of Photography. By Sunday at 11:55 p.m., edit your Pechakucha assignment and begin to finalize how this assignment is coming together. And by Sunday at 11:55 p.m., participate in your group's 1-hour virtual collaboratory using the questions provided, and spend some time together with your group finalizing your Pechakucha and collaborating on these finishing touches. So a few notes on the Pechakucha. You will need to include a final slide with APA references of the work that you are referring to. So it's not necessarily to have a title page, but as written in the assignment description, you will need to introduce your topic. So in an oral presentation, you need to be explicit with the readings that you're drawing on to avoid plagiarism. So even in oral speech, you'll need to say which author you're thinking with if you are referring to a reading from the course or somewhere else. But I encourage you to draw on the readings. If you are referring to a direct quote, you can begin by saying something like Sylvia Kind writes, quote, "Each photograph is no longer an objective truth about a moment captured and frozen, rather a rendering of eerily evocative and colorful processes and exchanges." End of quote. So you say it like this to ensure that you're giving credit to the person who wrote that piece.